of long-term retail holders.
I got a boo-boo, chat. I'm gonna be real with you. I got a boo-boo. I got a boo-boo. I got a boo-boo like crazy, man. I'm finna go take a little dookie. I just want y'all to listen to this next one. And I'm gonna listen to it from down the street in my restroom. But yeah, y'all need to get understood with this. Y'all need to get understood with this for real. Okay. I'm gonna put on a little Litecoin video. We're gonna read it when I get back, okay? We're gonna read it when I get back. But instead of, I want you to do some research on Litecoin and why I'm going so hard in this motherfucker. First thing I'm gonna do, I'm gonna buy more fucking Litecoin. Fuck shit talking about, man. We're gonna buy some Litecoin, y'all. Buy. You finna buy. I want it all, man. I want it all. Give me all the Litecoin, gang. Market. There's two different types. You could limit that bitch, or you can market that bitch. I'm gonna be real with you. You can limit that hoe, or you can market that hoe. We're gonna market it. Why? Because we're just buying it out as is. Don't give a F. We're gonna put in the full 5221. 52, Buying Litecoin. I don't know if y'all can see what I got going on, so let me show y'all. Buying Litecoin. All right, we finna buy some Litecoin. Boom! Bought some fucking Litecoin. Wow! I did that shit. Oh wait, no, we didn't. It's the trade. I'm jacked up off this espresso shot and this protein powder. I'm going fucking crazy right now. Boom! Fucking did it. Bought some Litecoin. Fuck you talking about? In this shit. And it's for our retirement. Boom! To the moon. We bought some Litecoin. We bought some Litecoin. Yeah. Shout out to all my young daddies out there. If you have kids, you know you gotta take care of your kids for the future, gang. So you want to invest. Dream big, invest bigger. Okay? Dream big, invest bigger. Let's get into it. I'm literally finna sell my life insurance and buy Litecoin with that motherfucker after I pay my rent. But everything, we'll see how that goes. Right now, let's get back to the video, okay? Part of that is I'm gonna try to hack some shit. Let's see what we can do. Litecoin. Okay. We need to find like institutional videos. All right, come on. Give me. Oh, you know what? Hold on. Fuck all that. Boom. Okay. Crypto news. Okay, go to crypto news. We're not going to altcoin daily. We're looking for a different one. There's a different person I've been watching. Like when I first got started in crypto. And I know they're still on here, again. I know I'm probably on the wrong account. Okay. Crypto educator on YouTube with British accent. Come on, bro. There's not a lot of them. There's not a lot. Coin Bureau, yes. Coin Bureau is fucking fantastic. Fantastic. They give you real sauce. Real sauce. And the fact that they have elevated their design is incredible, bro. Subscribe. I'd join their fucking community if I could. Join.
Keeping up with the markets has never...
Fuck that shit. Okay, let's get into it. Okay. Fuck. Okay. Like, if you look at their dude, I'm telling you. Okay.
I built this website in 5 minutes with Wix Harmony. So I came across this image recently and thought to myself, what if I built an entire brand around it?
In 2025, US stocks rallied by over 16%. International stocks rallied by almost 30%. Gold rallied by around 70%. And silver rallied by a whopping 150%. Meanwhile, the crypto market fell by 10%. This, therefore, has everyone wondering, is there any point to holding crypto in 2026? Or is it better to stick to last year's winning assets? And if there is a point to holding crypto, which ones make the most sense to hold? That's why today we're going to figure out what an optimized crypto portfolio for 2026 looks like. All in, all out, or somewhere in between. My name is Guy, and if you hold crypto, this is a video you can't afford to miss. Before we begin though, you need to know that I am not a financial advisor and nothing in this video is financial advice. It's educational content intended to inform you about the factors driving the markets and which cryptos, if any, could perform well in 2026 given these factors. If that sounds good, smash that like button and let's get into it. Now, I want to start off with something you may have noticed in the intro, and that's the fact that international stocks rallied twice as much as US stocks last year, and precious metals rallied twice as much as international stocks. Yes, some US stocks rallied more than international stocks and even gold, but the trend is clear. Global capital is rotating out of the US and into other countries and commodities. This is due to a combination of factors, including the US dollar, which fell by almost 10% in 2025, and concerns around things like Trump's tariffs and America's reliability as an ally. Whereas a falling US dollar provides a boost to international economies, concerns around the US's political and geopolitical stances have caused capital to flow elsewhere, boosted by the narrative of booming emerging market economies. As you can see, the outperformance of US stocks versus international stocks follows a cycle, just like everything else in the markets. This image is from early 2025, but we can draw in what happened. International stocks outperformed US stocks at a level not seen since the early 2000s. Now, believe it or not, but this could be why crypto and US small-cap stocks struggled in 2025. You see, all the world's assets exist on a risk spectrum. At one end of the spectrum, you have safe assets like government bonds, and at the other end of the spectrum, you have riskier assets like penny stocks. As investors feel more confident about the future of the economy and the markets, the more they start allocating further down the risk spectrum. The catch, though, is that not all assets across the spectrum are equal. For example, since the reserves of Russia's central bank were frozen following Russia's invasion of Ukraine in 2022, many countries decided to accumulate gold in lieu of Western government bonds as reserves. In other words, more of the capital being allocated into the low-risk part of the market started finding its way into gold. It's possible that something similar happened on the opposite end of the risk spectrum. As more capital started going into the high-risk part of the market, it was allocated to international stocks and commodities instead of crypto and US small-cap stocks. Some would argue that this capital went into AI stocks, and there's certainly some truth to that when it comes to retail investors. But most of the money is with the institutions, and it looks like they went into foreign stocks and metals in 2025. If this is indeed the case, then it begs the question of whether any of this risk on capital will find its way into crypto in 2026. Before I give you the answer, though, I need to tell you about the Coin Bureau Club. That's where we do weekly deep dives into promising crypto assets of all kinds, provide daily updates about what's going on in the markets, and reveal how we are personally positioned. So if you want to know which cryptos we're holding in 2026 and which ones we're considering buying, then become a member of the Coin Bureau Club using the link down in the description. Now, let's go back to that chart showing the historical outperformance of US stocks versus international stocks. As you may have noticed, there's never been a period in crypto's history where international stocks significantly outperformed US stocks, at least not until 2025. Besides the fact that this supports the idea that international stocks drained liquidity from crypto, it could be the start of a bigger trend. As you can see, every decade has had its own investment theme. In the 1950s, it was European stocks. In the 1960s, it was US stocks. In the 1970s, it was emerging markets and commodities. In the 1980s, it was Japanese stocks, i.e. international stocks. In the 1990s, it was US stocks. In the 2000s, it was emerging markets and commodities again. And in the 2010s, it was US stocks again. Again, there seems to be a cycle. And this cycle suggests that the 2020s will likely be dominated by international stocks and commodities. At first glance, you might think that this means the crypto market is going to struggle. After all, these international stocks and commodities appear to be competing for the same risk capital as crypto. The caveat, though, is that these flows into international stocks and commodities could kickstart a new risk-on wave. You see, international stocks and commodities are seen as risk assets by investors in developed countries, namely the US. However, this isn't the case in many other countries, especially emerging markets. This makes sense when you consider that for most investors, the safest assets are those found in their own countries, and in many countries, lots of these assets are tied up in commodities. Take the Canadian stock market, for instance. Resource and commodity companies make up more than a third of the TSX, that's Canada's version of the S&P 500. To put things into perspective, resource and commodity companies make up less than 5% of the S&P 500. By this point, you're probably wondering how any of this is related to crypto. Well, it becomes clear when you look closely at the capital flows at play. Some US investors looking to allocate further out along the risk spectrum will invest in the Canadian stock market. This will cause the Canadian stock market to rise, and the TSX went up by 30% in 2025, by the way. Whereas Canadian stocks are seen as riskier by US investors, they're seen as the safest option by most Canadian investors. The huge rise in the TSX will inevitably increase risk-on sentiment among Canadians. So, where will Canadian investors allocate their capital if they're looking to invest in riskier assets? Sure, they could invest in other international stocks and commodities, but it's not as easy for Canadians to invest internationally, and commodities aren't anything exciting. They're the boring old backbone of the Canadian economy. It's possible, therefore, keyword possible, that some of this capital goes into crypto. In other words, liquidity started off by flowing into US stocks, then it flowed into international stocks and commodities, instead of flowing into crypto and small cap US stocks as it had in previous cycles. As such, you could say that liquidity from US investors took a detour. It went overseas instead of online. The thing is that this overseas capital will need to flow somewhere once foreign markets are flooded with liquidity. And one of the places it could flow into is crypto. Aside from the fact that crypto also lies further out along the risk spectrum for international investors, it's also much easier for international investors to access compared to, say, the Polish stock market, which was up 45% in 2025, by the way. This begs a bigger question, though, and that's when foreign investors will buy crypto and which ones they will buy, if any. And the answer here is fascinating because it ultimately depends on a combination of two factors. Which countries are opening their doors to crypto, and which particular cryptos investors in those jurisdictions are interested in. Suppose we're dealing with a European investor. The DAX, the German stock market index, is hitting new all-time highs, and they want to invest some of this capital out along the risk spectrum into crypto. Now, as some of you will know, the EU recently introduced its Markets in Crypto Assets, or MiCA, regulation, which creates clarity for crypto, particularly altcoins listing on exchanges. What you may not know, though, is that the EU also introduced strict travel rule regulations, which make it very inconvenient to move crypto off exchanges. At the same time, many European investors are environmentally conscious, if you catch